I'm curious of what you guys do for those things. Like, what are the dual purpose things or the multi-purpose things that you have as men? What's your advice around that?
One of the things that...
Go ahead, Trev.
So many answers.
Sorry,
it's so exciting.
So many answers. One of the things that is the biggest issue, I think, for packing for women and men, maybe a little more for women, but I think it happens with men too, is shoes.
Welcome to the Budget Minded Traveler Podcast, your source for the tips and tactics that will inspire and equip you to travel the world. And the best part, it won't break your bank. And now, the Budget Minded Traveler herself and your host, Jackie IRL.
Hey guys, we're back again with another special episode featuring 3 other travel podcasters. Jason Moore from Zero to Travel, Travis Sherry from Extra Pack of Peanuts, and Nathaniel Boyle from the Daily Travel Podcast, which is now called The Travelers. And besides the rapid fire roundtable discussion that we did in the last episode, which on this podcast was episode 61, we each also chose one topic to discuss among all of us that we would publish separately on each of our own shows. So this week, you can also check out their shows to hear the topics that they chose. And right here, you get to tune into the topic that I chose, which is packing. And what's brilliant, I think, about this is that while I actually talk about packing a lot on my blog, you guys know that I love it. And I've even had a podcast on here about it, episode number 34. I've really only been able to offer my perspective on packing as a female. Even when I can provide tips for males, it's just not the same. So I specifically wanted to bring it up with these guys who are all experienced packers to see what their expert tips are for all my male listeners out there. So you can find notes from this episode at thebudgetmindedtraveler.com/62. And I really hope it's helpful for you guys. So here we go with Jason, Travis, and Nathaniel.
We're so grateful to Osprey Packs for partnering with us and supporting the podcast, so please stay tuned for more about them later on. I have an opportunity for you to join me in real life for some real travel. Here's the latest Jump Adventures update. We are going to Greece for a bike and boat island hopping adventure this May 9th to 16th, 2025, and we still have space left. Check out jumpadventures.com to learn more and book now. We're going to have a yacht all to ourselves with ensuite cabins on board, so you get to sleep in the same bed every night as we start in Athens and make our way west toward the island of Corfu. You'll have your own bike for the week, e-bike if you want one, for cycling the islands as we go, in between meals crafted by our private chef on board, and all the relaxing you want to do on the top deck under the Mediterranean sun. These bike and boat adventures are our most carefree and relaxed trips. All you have to do is say yes and show up, and there's still space. Head over to jumpadventures.com to grab your spot now, and we'll see you there.
Let's talk about packing. I am kind of a ninja carry-on packer. And I did give myself that title, but I love to pack light and stick to carry-ons only. I always just have a backpack with me. And every time I travel somewhere, I post a packing list, like a very detailed packing list for that specific trip on my blog. They're like the most popular posts on my blog, actually. And my readers obviously find them very helpful, but I have yet to talk about it on a podcast because I don't have the male perspective. And I actually have been meaning to, for a long time, get some male being on here who travels to talk about what they pack. And now I have 3 of you. And so, and you're cornered. So, that's what I would love to talk about today is packing. So first of all, do you guys prefer to just carry on? Are you with me on that? Yes. Or do you suitcase, backpack? What do you use?
I avoid checking at all costs. And I have a shoulder bag that I sadly cannot recommend to anyone because I think I got it at like TJ Maxx or Marshall's or one of those stores. You know, like it was just a bag I needed. I saw it. It looked great. It's a Callaway, kind of like a golf bag. You can fit a folded suit into it. It actually comes with a garment bag on the back. This is not like your backpacker material, right? Like this is not a traveler thing, but this is how I travel. It has two zipper sections and then two front pouches with all your little pockets on the inside. It's very simple. I throw it over my shoulder with the shoulder strap. I tighten the shoulder strap and I slide it to my bag. I slide the bag to my back. And that's what I do. And it fits in every carry-on compartment, although it's on the large side. So this is the bag I swear by. And sadly, I can't recommend exactly what it is because it's not something you can find.
But something similar. Do you also carry then like another, like a briefcase or like a man purse or anything besides just the one bag?
Depends on the trip. I have like a leather, no, not leather. I should say it's like a cloth and leather strapped bag for all of my work things, which I'll pack separately. I also have a camera bag that's very small. The point of keeping these bags very small is that I can fit them into my bag if I pack light and consolidate, so I'm only carrying one thing at a time. I think it's really important to have your hands free when you're traveling. So I try and to stay mobile and to be able to move around and be able to, keep an eye on your thing. So the less that I have, the better.
Yeah, so it's Travis from Extra Pack of Peanuts here, and I totally agree with you, Nathaniel, and Jackie as well, that I avoid checking bags at all costs. I think that it's just a big hassle all the way around. It costs money nowadays, especially, if you're taking not long international flights, it costs money to check bags. I hate waiting at the carousel and actually having to wait when you get out of the airplane and then sitting at the airport and not just going on your merry way to wherever you're going. So I only ever carry on. Now, the one time that I do check bags is if I'm coming back to the United States and I want to bring either beer or wine home. So in the last 3 years, the only times I've had to wait to check bags have been when I've shipped boxes of alcohol home. So, there are times where I'm going to go and go against the carry-on rule, but only for those reasons. And I just use a regular, like a travel backpack. The one big thing I think that people should look for if they're looking at a travel backpack is going to be that I prefer the ones that aren't the top loading ones. So, when you see hiking packs, stuff like that, they open from the top and you have to reach through and to get your stuff. I like ones that open up like a suitcase, but they're like a backpack. So I use a Tortuga backpack, which is, they make a carry-on back, and I use that. And then I typically then also they have a day pack with them, with that bag, which is like a 15 to 20 liter pack, which obviously you use just for little day trips. And I throw stuff in there, and I usually put my electronics in there and keep that with me, on a plane. And so I can easily pull stuff out if I want to get my laptop out or things like that. So with those two things, I usually have plenty of room unless I'm going somewhere that's really, really cold. And then I just wear my heaviest clothes on the plane and worry about, having to pack them later, like scrunching them into the backpack.
That's brilliant. I love that comment about the top loading. Oh my goodness. I'm actually switching. I think this weekend I'm getting my new pack, and it's just like the one you described. It opens like a suitcase and it has a day pack that connects to the outside. And it's an Osprey Farpoint is the one I'm going to get. But I've been using the backpacking kind, like the top loading. And besides being so incredibly ridiculously frustrating to no end, because I don't use packing cubes, Nathaniel, of getting stuff out. I know, right? Of getting stuff out of the bag. It also, it tears up my hands and my arms as I'm reaching through all this stuff and against the pack. And it's so frustrating when you're traveling constantly. So that's a brilliant point there.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, I think a lot of companies are starting to hop on this, and Osprey was one of the first ones with their Farpoint, which I've used before I used my Tortuga. And, if anyone's looking for it, they're called travel packs, or if you type in travel backpacks, that might come up with a subset of ones that are different from, as you mentioned, the backpacks, which are usually more for hiking and stuff like that. But you still see a lot of travelers using those top loading ones. So I would urge anyone, if they have a top loading one, to give the other kind a try, because I think you'll be much, much happier.
Jason, what do you carry?
Yeah, this is Jason with the Zero to Travel podcast. I carry both, actually. Well, it depends on the situation. I know, Jackie, you mentioned that you just went to Patagonia. So on that trip, for example, it made sense to have a top loading hiker style backpack because I was trekking my butt off the entire trip. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I needed that dual purpose backpack, the one that you can use for outdoor excursions, but also you could use for getting around and everything like that. Generally speaking, the same with you guys. I mean, I I don't want to check a bag ever unless I have to. And I've used a 40-liter REI pack, which was great because it had a lot of straps on the outside. It could actually use it for some hiking as well. So I like to utilize the outside straps for things if it gets too overloaded, like when you come back and you got too much stuff, you need to put it somewhere. And if it doesn't fit in, you can start strapping shoes and different things on the outside and with carabiners and whatnot. It's one of my favorite moves. And now I have the Tortuga setup as well, the same as Travis, where we have the Tortuga backpack that's designed to just carry on. So it's designed to like maximize the amount you can bring in a carry-on and still get on the plane. And they have the day pack as well. So that's my setup. Nathaniel, I'm a huge King Cubes guy as well. Big fan of stuff sacks and cube and Ziploc bags. I love Ziploc bags. I usually jam like too many in there, but they're like basically ultra light packing cubes, right? So they also prevent a lot of disasters from happening in your bag, like things breaking and liquid going everywhere and stuff like that. And yeah, there are a couple moves I like to pull when I'm getting on the plane. Like what I'll do, because I just traveled with the Tortuga stuff, and I had so much stuff with me this time, you guys, because I was moving to Norway, and so I had to bring, like, I brought my guitar, I brought a big suitcase, and I was like, oh, traveling all stuff on the New Jersey Transit. I'm like, this sucks. And then I had the carry-on bag, that I was taking on the plane. But and then I had the day pack too. But what I like to do is I like to set up the day pack before I get on the plane with like all the stuff that I want to have like under my feet on the plane, Yep. So I'll just like preset it with like my computer, whatever, Kindle, like a couple small things, and then I'll just put it right into the bag I'm carrying on like that. And then when I get on, I can just throw it up there and like pull it out really quick and then zip up the bag. It lives in the overhead, and then I can put the day pack under my feet and have everything I want for the flight. So, but yeah, minimalism all the way. And like, I think that the trick, probably, I know, Jackie, I mean, you bring a whole perspective for me because obviously I'm a guy unpacking, and you have some different things that you're going to bring, I'm sure. But just the dual purpose stuff, like anything that can serve a couple of purposes will always cut down on the amount you have to bring. I mean, that's going to be a whole other discussion, I guess, trying to, like, how do you minimize it? How do you get it so you're down to the bare minimum?
I actually really want to talk about that, though, because I'm all about being minimalistic and dual purposes or multi-purpose. I mean, bringing the most versatile, first of all, clothing that, I mean, it's much more difficult, I think, for women. In fact, I know it is. Let's not kid ourselves. But you cut down half the things you need to bring if you can multi-purpose the things that you have. But I'm curious of what you guys do for those things. Like, what are the dual purpose things or the multi-purpose things that you have as men? What's your advice around that?
One of the things that,
go ahead, Trev.
So many answers. Sorry, it's so exciting.
So many answers. One of the things that is the biggest issue, I think, for packing for women and men, maybe a little more for women, but I think it happens to men too, is shoes, because obviously they're fairly bulky and they take up a lot of room. So forever, when I was not packing just to carry on, I know the horror, the dark ages, I would bring like a pair of sneakers, and I'm like, oh, what if I played basketball? And then I like bring a pair of basketball sneakers. I just would bring all these shoes for all these different types of events that may happen when I'm traveling. And so one of the dual purpose that I do is try to cut down on the number of shoes, and just like, for example, now what I'll usually bring is just 3 pairs of shoes, and I only bring like barefoot shoes now because they're much thinner. They look just as nice as regular shoes, and they pack up to like a quarter the size. So I'll bring a pair of like boat shoes or boots that are barefoot, which I get the Vivo bare kind. So then that's like my shoe to wear if I ever have to go out or do anything, or even just, casual. And then I'll bring a pair of sandals, and then I'll bring 1 pair of sneakers. So that's like kind of the dual purpose. Like, I'll bring sneakers that if I had to like go hiking, I can hike in them. If I want to go running, I can run in them. And if I wanted to play sports, you could make it work. They're not going to be the perfect shoes for each one of those things, but it's like a dual or tri-purpose shoe. Yes. That's been the big thing for me, is just not packing like very specific items like you mentioned.
We'll come right back to that. Let's take a moment now to thank our wonderful show sponsors. Osprey is the market leader in technical outdoor, travel, and everyday packs. And I've personally used Osprey packs since 2015. My favorites are the Fairview Trek 50 for multi-day hikes, the Cirrus 24 for day hikes, the Transporter Rolling Duffel 60, which is my trusty check luggage for faraway adventures, and of course, the countless packing cubes I use to organize everything that goes in them. We are proud to support each other on the podcast and beyond. We love getting outside, and we want to see more people outdoors. So find out more and join us at osprey.com.
Just to build off of what Travis was saying, because you mentioned shoes, a couple other. I mean, Jack, if you're hitting on the multi-purpose items, I can name a couple things that I use, and obviously, I think the matching of clothing is one thing. I mean, you can coordinate it right where the minimal amount of clothing you have will work with multiple things. And I always pack ultralight in the beginning because I always like to buy a funky t-shirt or something like that. I know there are a couple things that I like to get on the ground. So, I'll bring one less t-shirt, for example, or bring one that I'm more than happy to ditch whenever I find something cool that I'm going to replace it with. My bathing suit, I love to run and work out and do active stuff. I usually just use my bathing suit as my workout shorts. So instead of bringing an extra pair of shorts, I'll just, wear underwear with my bathing suit, and can function as running pants. They can function as running shorts or whatever as well. There's some thin running shorts. So sometimes I'll chuck them in, but it depends on the room. Bandanas do a lot of awesome things. I'm a sucker for bandanas, whether you're tying around your head or your neck, using them for, drying dishes, or there's a million and one things you can use those things for. So that's another item that I think is indispensable for me. Tying things up, like I said, on the outside of the bag, just a lot of different things you can use. And then the platypus water bottles, instead of the stainless steel ones or the big Nalgene bottles, which I like in my regular life, but when I'm traveling for an extended period of time, these platypus bottles literally they weigh nothing and they roll up to you can stick them in your pocket. So it's good to travel with a water bottle, and those water bottles are great. I've actually filled them up with hot water before to just I had an achy back when I was trekking one time. So there are other things you can do with it as well. So I think those are just a few examples. In the shoes that Travis mentioned, those are always a battle, right?
Yeah.
So I just do the 2 pairs of shoes. I do the sneakers, and then but sometimes I'll bring a really skinny pair of flops for showers if it's going to be nasty type of dirty traveling, and then maybe a nice pair of sandals, a pair of Chaco sandals I've traveled with quite a bit, with a good strong sole. So those are, I don't know, just a few things I'll pull out and share with you.
That's brilliant. The shoes is definitely a big thing. And I love that you guys basically have the same theory that I do with the shoes. I always bring flip-flops for the showers, always. And then a pair of walking shoes. Right now I have a pair of Toms that sound like your boat shoes that you were talking about before. They're very versatile. You can walk in them for a long time. You can dress them up or down. It doesn't really matter. They kind of are just very versatile shoes. And then I have a pair of flat sandals that can be dressed up as well, but they pack down to nothing. And then I also have my running shoes, and that's because being active is really important to me. And so it's important to me to have those shoes with me, but those are dispensable if you aren't, a runner, or if you don't need them. And then I would say beyond the walking shoes and the sandals, you have to determine whether it's warm or cold where you're going. Bring either a pair of, for women, boots or sandals that are nice. And then if your traveling demands that you bring another type of shoe, like wedding shoes or running shoes, then you start expanding. But I think 3 pairs is the magic number. Nathaniel, I didn't let you talk on that one.
For me, I love listening to all of you guys and these sort of similar perspectives, because I'm going to bring a different approach. For me, simplicity and living simply is kind of one of the things that I love about travel. It's leaving home and all the stuff that's sort of maybe lying around on all the surfaces that are getting cluttered, and it's escaping that, and it's living more simply out of one bag. It's kind of refreshing. I find that to be a really nice process. It's mentally cleansing. But then, I want to be able to take all of this simplicity and this feeling that I get from living out of one bag, and I want to bring that minimalistic approach back home. So on the flip side of that, I guess what that means is I don't really believe in buying things specifically for the road that I don't use at home. And then I also sort of have a personal rule that I try not to buy anything that I don't outright love, which usually prevents me. Both of these things prevent me from ever looking at travel gear or going into, REI and looking at travel pants that zip at the knees and stuff like that. That's not who I am. I like to wear a dark jeans and dark t-shirt, so that's the foundation of my packing. I start there. I know depending on how long I'm going for, I pack X number of pairs of underwear and I pack that many t-shirts, right? And then I like to dress up maybe a little bit more than travelers, I think in general do, because people just sort of accept that fashion is difficult when you're folding everything or you're cramming everything in your backpack, and laundry is not readily accessible and ironing is difficult. But I look for clothes that I can make that work for me, that the traveler work kind of works for. So J. Crew, I like collared shirts that button down, right? I like wearing those, rolling up the sleeves. That's kind of how I roll. I like J. Crew work shirts because they wrinkle and they look good when they're wrinkled. So no big deal, right? So I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is the shoes that I wear. I have leather Oxfords and leather flip-flops. That's what I wear. Jackie, we were in Montana and you were showing me around Yellowstone and I was wearing loafers. We were out hiking and that's what I wear. Unless I'm going for a big trek or I'm on a trip that necessitates particular gear, I like to just keep things really simple. And so I am who I am and I wear what I wear no matter kind of where I am. And I try not to let travel change what I buy. Instead, I just try to be really comfortable with the things that I have so that it's adaptable to my surroundings.
I love that. And I think that's really important because I think people go overboard and they think way too much about what to bring traveling and they'll go out and buy things. And that's exactly the opposite of what I recommend, because one of the things that I say is whatever you bring, make sure you love it because you are going to be wearing it day in and day out. Make sure it's something that you wear all the time at home because that's what you're going to want anyway. And I was only laughing at you earlier because I'm just sitting here in my clothes that I've been wearing for 3 days because I wear the same clothes every day. But you know what? No one cares. So, okay, real quick then. This has been really good. What kind of clothes do you just how do you build your wardrobe? What do you start with? Do you have any magic numbers of anything that you bring with jeans, t-shirts, shorts? Especially imagine a trip like mine. I'm on this trip for a year. I already hit every climate in the first month. What I have are the
I'm sorry. It's just that's really what we need to drill down on is the length of the trip, because a 1 week trip or a weekend trip is going to be completely different than a long-term travel approach.
Totally. So let's take the long-term approach because I always say that no matter how long you're going, well, unless it's going to be shorter than this, but even if you're going for 2 months or a year or 2 weeks, pack for 2 weeks because you're going to use about the same amount of clothes. I mean, I would only vary that by maybe a couple of items, instead of 3 shirts, bring 5, if you're going to go for a year. But it's almost the exact same base, which is why all of my packing posts, I want to drill it into my readers that they are almost exactly the same. It's I've just gotten really good at figuring out what I need. So I want to hear your guys' perspective on what is it that you just go to? What do you bring?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of going about it. I actually tell people pack for 1 week, and that can get you through too, because I think people forget 2 things. One, that you can buy stuff abroad if you need it, and that it typically not always will be more cheaper, but depending on where you're going, could be substantially cheaper if you're traveling through cheaper countries. And that doesn't mean to get really, really nice stuff. If you need a t-shirt, like Jason was kind of alluding to, you can buy a t-shirt in Thailand couple dollars. Or, if you're in Italy, you can buy a really nice shirt that's more expensive and maybe swap that out for something that you brought. So I think people forget they can buy stuff when they go, and they also forget that they can do laundry. Why pack for 10 weeks worth of travel when you're not going to wear that at home? You typically do laundry every week or however often. So I think if you remember those 2 things, it's really important. And then for me, I don't really have magic numbers, but I do exactly what Nathaniel was talking about, where I don't buy anything specifically for traveling. Now, like I went on safari in Kenya and I bought one pair of pants that I still don't wear at home, but that's the only item that I have that is like just a travel thing. What I do is I don't have.
It does sound like we just lost Travis, but if Jason and Nathaniel, if you guys have anything else that you want to add to that, I would love to hear it.
I'm just going through right now kind of like a really quick packing list. The first thing I do is I think about what I'm wearing, or like I kind of like dress myself mentally. And then I just, as I go, it's like, okay, well, like underwear, socks, t-shirts, how long is the trip? and then I pack based on that. If it's a long-term trip, then I'm going to be assuming that I can either buy and replace things or do laundry along the way. So I'll probably shoot for around 10 to 12 like t-shirts, because I figure that's decent. And if I have to rewear something once, I can do that all twice. And so within like a 2 to 3 week window, I can usually find some way to turn over my laundry. And then from there, it's like, it's about how you want to layer on top of that and what you want to look like. So I'm going to bring probably leather shoes, depending on the trip. If it's a trek, I'm going to bring boots. And then I'm going to bring if I'm bringing a big pair of shoes, then I'm going to bring a small pair that compacts down. Toms or something like that are great. And then from beyond that, I think it's like, for me, I always find pants are kind of a tricky thing, because jeans, I love jeans. I find them, they're perfect for me. I fit, they're comfortable. I wear them doing everything, but they're bulky, right? So I never pack more than one pair of jeans, pretty much as a rule. And then it's just like, what other pants do I want to get? And I have like some like pretty thin material, khaki style pants, blue and brown. They wear easy. They wrinkle well. They're kind of faded in color. They beat up really well. They don't need to be nice. So I'll go for that. And and I'd say that's like my foundation. And then in terms of, I always use hotel soaps and stuff. Like I'm either buying it if I need it from a store when I get there. I almost never pack ahead of time. But if I'm going long term, when I was going around the world, I had just a big bottle of Castile soap, and I used that for everything: shampoo, soap, shaving. Right, so like that took care of all my needs in one container. And I think I bought like it in bulk at Costco before I left, and then I put it into 2 little mini Nalgene containers. That really took care of that problem for me.
I forget all about that soap, but that's actually a brilliant point. That all-in-one kind of soap.
I mean, it's good for everything. If you need to clean like your socks, you can do that, right?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Actually,
it's really good. Are we alone on this? Is Jason still here?
No, Jason's still here.
I'm here.
Okay.
All right, Jason. What's your 2 cents on that?
Yeah, I will share really quickly. I have a lot of things, like I'll have one of each thing, and I take a hybrid approach. Like I do want to be somewhat fashionable, when I'm going out and stuff like that. But I also want to have some functionality that still looks good. So I'm a huge fan of these Prana pants that are they just look like regular khaki pants essentially, but they're a like a moisture wicking type of material, and that's stuff I wear every day too, like in my everyday life also. So like they'll be like, if I have some type of khaki or like some type of like regular pants, there'll be just one pair of those, and it'll be like sort of a moisture wicking type. And then I'll have like one pair of jeans, and I'll have one sleeve shirt with a collar that I just will wear for everything, I'll have like one bathing suit, I kind of bring one of each major thing, I suppose. And then when I get into 2 or 3 things, I can bring like 2 or 3 t-shirts, like 2 bandanas. I'll have like one of the t-shirts will be like a moisture wicking shirt. So it's just, it's pretty, I guess, minimal. And I also like dark colors because the stains don't show up as much.
Yes.
So that's helpful. And, I find when I just go for a weekend or a week, and especially if I have a car or something, it's like I pack way more than I need because I'm just like, oh, just throw it in the car, just throw it in the bag, just throw it in the bag. Like you don't really think about it as much. You're not as selective as when you're going for like months at a time. I don't know if you guys find the same, but I'm going through months at a time. I'm really scrutinizing what I bring. And then for magic numbers, I mean, usually like I'll heavy up on underwear, like maybe like 7 to 10 days worth of underwear, but then everything else is just like, a handful of outfits.
Yeah, really, totally.
That mix and match. So that's kind of the general vibe. I will leave you with one extreme grooming technique for men, which I like to do on a longer trip. If you just shave And also shave your armpits. You can just like rock no deodorant and you won't get too stinky, and you can just let your beard grow out, and you don't really have to carry much besides a toothpaste and a toothbrush.
Wow,
maybe extreme. And if I even just have if I have a small bar of soap or something, I'll even just use that as my shampoo and stuff too. So I like literally have like a tiny Ziploc baggie full of a few things for toiletries. Like you can strip it really way down if you want. So
that's such a good point. I mean, yeah, whether that's going to work for everyone or not, I don't know, but it's such a good point that, you know, sometimes just think outside the box and go minimal, because you're going to survive. It's going to be fine. You can always buy something if you need to. Well,
sure.
Thank you so much to all three of you for weighing in on that. I love to have the male perspective, so I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
All right, there you have it. Now you guys are all going to be expert packers, right? Once again, you can find the notes from this episode at thebudgetmindedtraveler.com/62. You can find Jason at zerototravel.com, Travis at extrapackofpeanuts.com, and Nathaniel at holocene.io. And before I go, I'd love to hear your feedback about these last two episodes. Remember, you can always leave a comment on any of the show notes pages for any episode on this podcast. So feel free to do so, or to reach out to me on Twitter, at Traveling Jackie. You can also, of course, find me on Facebook or in the Budget Minded Traveler community group on Facebook as well, which if you haven't joined that yet, come on over. It's free. It's a great way to connect with other BMT listeners about travel questions, planning, strategy, budgeting, everything. All right. That's all I've got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.